Welcome to the 5-Year You podcast, a show dedicated to helping you become the best version of yourself one day at a time. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Kat, and we promise to keep it raw, real, and relatable.
Are you ready to grow? Hey 5 Tribe, today's episode is all about detaching from outcomes, and this one's going to be one that probably rubs you the wrong way. I'm just going to come out and say it right out the gate, so buckle up, here we go. How are you doing, Kat?
No, I'm fine. I don't know if it's going to rub people the wrong way. I think it was the first time we heard about detaching from outcomes. It just gives you a new perspective on things, that's all.
It does. I think when I say everybody else, I really mean me, and I think when we are going through things, when we have a high commitment to something, we want to see things happen a certain way in a certain order. Our ego is really kind of driven to have the desired outcome, whatever that might be. You know, I plan a nice day, the day goes really well. I rent a funny movie, I expect to laugh. It's kind of like, I'm doing A, so I should get B is kind of, I think, the way our minds work. The hard part is when the outcome doesn't match what we want it to be. And this episode is going to be a little different because the way I have shifted my thinking around this is to see outcomes as information and feedback rather than this right or wrong type of thing. And it's been a challenge. So I really look forward to going through this episode and sharing with everybody some of the harder outcomes that I've had to adjust with. What are your thoughts on all of this, Kat?
So I feel like we have, as people, have expectations of how we think things should go, how people should act, how other people should behave, what our kids should do, how our day should go. And so a lot of these things we're talking about are expectations. One of our earliest episodes is how expectations and having them can be very harmful to your relationships. But I think that a lot of disappointment is wrapped up in people getting outcomes they didn't expect.
I think you're right. I think when this sort of thing happens, that outcome is neutral. I think that's kind of the lesson, is to start to view outcomes as neutral and then notice your reaction to the outcome as the interpretation of good or bad, and then kind of look at things and filter through a perceptual basis, not necessarily the event itself. So if one of the big things I've been trying to work on, I listened to this Bashar, you guys can look it up if you're interested in it. But it was basically 5 steps for a happy life. And the first one is to do what you're passionate about for as long as you can in any given moment until you're not passionate about it anymore. Do it to your best of your abilities, take it as far as you can, and then move on. And this is the hard one for me, is act on your excitement, passion with no insistence, assumption, or expectation of what the outcome should be. And that is really hard because your outcome is kind of why we do a lot of things, right? I cook a nice meal and I would like to get the compliment afterwards, or at least like the meal to taste good afterwards. And when that doesn't happen, I get angry at myself. I don't, that's my way of handling things. I'll get frustrated and whatnot. What is your take on something like that? Like if you make a nice meal and it doesn't go the way you want, do you look at it as a way like that needs to change? Like how do you take it?
Yeah, I think I look at it as disappointment. And as somebody who is very driven, there's a lot of times where I expected certain outcomes that maybe didn't come to fruition, or I based my self-worth on getting certain outcomes and accolades and promotions and internships and whatever else you can think of. And a big part of my work over the last few years is recognizing that I, just like everyone else, have inherent value just because I was born worthy of happiness, right? All of us are. And I'm very big on telling my kids, you don't have to do anything to earn my love, right? We get a lot of little math tests here in 5th grade. And you put the work in, whatever the outcome is, I love you regardless of what the outcome is. I'm actively teaching them that about outcomes because the pursuit of particular outcomes was my driving force for my life growing up throughout my 20s. And it's not always the healthiest because it makes the disappointments a lot bigger. Like the kid who has his mind set on a certain college and then doesn't get it. But now we know that everything's happening for us. Our life is meant to take twists and turns. If we could plan it all out and make a nice outline to follow, that would take away from the excitement of it all, right? So
it's so funny you say that, because I think that is one of the challenges of life, is to really look at things and go, man, I really want things to go as my plan is. And it's the most boring thing when it happens. And I know like the excitement that might come from it not going the way you want it to can be challenging. That's really what you are wanting with things, is you want it to go your way. But if everything always went exactly how you planned it, you would be really, really bored. And that kind of brings to the fourth point, is choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens. That's the problem with most of us, is that when you don't get accepted to the college you want to go into, when your book proposal gets rejected, when the outward event that you were hoping would happen doesn't happen, choose to view it as positive for whatever reason. And you can make up the reason. There's no guidebook on this. I have been doing this past week, and I'm going to give you an example of taking something that was really challenging for me and finding a positive in it. My son, I think I mentioned in a previous episode, I had a hockey accident. He had concussion and a pinched nerve in his neck. And we found ourselves in the emergency room from like 8 o'clock at night till 4 a.m. And I'm sitting there with him, and he has to stay conscious because he's under protocol and all these things. And all I'm thinking to myself is, what is the good that comes from my son getting hurt? And it's hard, but I got there, and I got there faster than I thought I would, because I'm slowly changing how I view everything as a positive. Why is this happening for me? What is this outcome? What is the positive in this outcome, in this result? And what I came up with was, maybe this is to help him to stop playing this sport as it starts to get more violent as the kids get older. The concept of hockey really is just like, I played it as a kid, but it is like, when you explain it to somebody who's never played it before, it's like, wow, and that's your nation's sport. That's interesting. It's very violent. Maybe it's to help him find a new direction. Maybe it's he needed to miss school this week for whatever reason. Maybe it's so he can become stronger and understand that, I think as all kids, we think we're indestructible until we find out we're not.
yeah.
But I chose, and I really had to work on this in the moment, because you're sitting in a hospital and you're told it's going to be 7 hours of waiting, and you're just shaking your head and feeling a bunch of emotions. But that narrative you put around the outcome is everything to you. It's not the ain't it awful vibe. It's the how is this beneficial. And it's hard. It's not 100% shots that you're going to get with this. You just have to kind of start telling yourself, okay, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be in my life at any given moment. And if I truly believe that, everything around me right now is happening, including you, dear listener, listening to this podcast, you are hearing this moment for a reason. You get to determine what that reason is. Maybe it's because you need to contact us and get coaching. Maybe because your life needs a change. Maybe it's because you need to have more positivity in your life. Whatever that reason may be, it is happening for you, not to you. And when you switch your attitude around to going, what is this trying to teach me? You'll learn a lot more and you grow a lot faster, rather than having the poor me attitude of looking at things and going, oh, bad things always happen to me. Well, if you keep saying that, yeah, bad things are always going to happen to you. You're going to have the same thing repeat over and over and over again, and you're never going to learn the lesson because you just have stuck in this non-learning loop. Sorry, I got off track there.
No, you didn't get off track. I think it's all relevant. And, whatever your belief system is, some people think like, they believe in a higher power or, good energy, universal energy, all of these things. You're talking about kind of getting stuck in an energy loop. And it makes me think like, everything is happening for a reason is a very common refrain. We like to say everything is happening for you, even in those moments. And what's challenging is that usually you only realize it in hindsight, right? The same example of the child not getting into their number one college. Well, maybe they get into a different school and they go play sports for that school, and that gets them noticed by a recruiter and it sets them off on a career, maybe they wouldn't have stood out had they gone to the other school with the whatever better team. I don't know much about sports ball, but
You're doing good.
I'm just guessing here. Or maybe you sit next to someone in class and they become your business partner one day, or your spouse one day, or, your closest friend for the rest of your life. Like, we don't know why things happen the way that they happen, but I do know that a lot of people try to control outcomes because it makes them feel safe. If they can control, where they go, what they do, the effort they put in, then they will know what happens. But the truth is that control it doesn't help. It's all an illusion. None of us have control over what happens in our lives, when our lives end, what happens to our loved ones. Control is an illusion. And the more that we detach from the outcome and find peace with whatever happens, positive or negative, and try to find the lesson, I think the more content we are and the easier it is to get through this thing called life.
Well said. And for everyone listening, this is not something that came easily to either one of us. We have really wanted to control every outcome. And I think as you kind of go through life, if you have some things happen to you, I mean, we all go through our own life traumas. I think that's pretty universal.
Part of the gig.
It's part of the gig. But that's why, if you've ever found yourself, like I did, up every night thinking about everything somebody might snidely say to me in class the next day and how I was going to react to it, that's me just trying to control a million different outcomes, none of which happened, of course, because that's not how it works. I would go back to myself back then and tell myself to sleep and just like, don't worry about it. But this isn't something you necessarily get to do right away. Some people can make that switch and start asking the question, what's the positive in this thing? Why am I late for my meeting when I so desperately needed to get there? Why is this happening? What's this? What's that? That is a much better energy and attitude and perceptual basis to have versus this is somebody else's fault and I have no power in this instant, because that's really what you're trying to do, is make sure you have that kind of internal locus of control of how you perceive the event. That is where the real control and power is. And I think we forget that.
No, I think we do too. And I know that not everyone listening to this is parents, and we talk about parenting a lot, but it makes me think of, parents that are very much trying to control like who their children become, right? Or they schedule them with private tutors till 10 o'clock at night. And these kids are, under a lot of stress and they have all these expectations. And we can give our kids everything in the world, but we don't have any control over the decisions they make and who they become now or when they're adults. And it's like the more I realize that, the easier things have gotten, because I grew up in a very strict household, very conservative, very strict household, and went to Catholic school. A lot of that is just very strict and regimented, and a lot of, especially the Catholic school, a lot of fear-based control, for better, for worse. And, now I have just like a much more relaxed approach to things that I even surprise myself sometimes, like, wow, I can't believe that I said that was okay. Or I can't believe I didn't blink when my lovely little lady accidentally said a curse word or something. Like, imagine me saying that at school at her age or something. Like, I don't know. I'm really transitioning a lot from somebody who is very, very type A, very intense. And, so many different things have happened that have really shown me that all I can do is my best every day and try to be a good person and, we have many goals. We have many business goals, and we're going to do our best to achieve them. But kind of being unattached from the outcome leaves it open for surprises for us.
And I think that's where the magic starts to happen, is when you get interested and excited about the unknown, of knowing that, like, okay, this wasn't we just had this long meeting with a client and it didn't quite go the way we wanted to, but I'm excited to see what happens with that. And that is again, it's just shifting your brain to kind of look at things and go, I wonder why this is happening. And I wonder how it's going to impact things, rather than coming out of the meeting and going, well, they didn't know what they were talking about because this is blah, 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 blah. And you come at it with like this storm of negativity. You come at it with this curiosity and like, I thought it was going to go this way and it went a different way. What an interesting thing that I couldn't have planned. I wonder what adventure this is that I'm embarking on. And it might just be a mini adventure, but it's still an adventure. Life is better that way when you do that, because I don't know, to reference sports ball, as Catherine likes to call it, if you went golfing and you got a hole in one every time, it gets boring really fast. And the same thing with any kind of activity. You know, it's the challenges that we're here for, to kind of rise up and overcome. So it's nice when things happen the way you want it to, but it's also, it's actually better for you when it doesn't happen the way you want, because that's where the neuroplasticity and the changes come in, and the wiring of your brain and the excitement and the adrenaline and all these cool things that happen inside of our bodies to level up. That's when these things happen, rather than, getting it right the first time and being like, okay, I guess that's done. That's boring.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, like, wow, how are they so chill about this? I want to let you know that no one is more surprised than we are that we're talking about this today. I mean, the us of like snort laugh came in, cha-ching.
5 points for Catherine on the snort.
Yeah, I mean, God, 5 years ago, we were managing our business through the pandemic, and we were like, okay, if we input all of this and this should happen. And it's like, we were just grasping at straws. My agent was shopping my first book to publishers, and I was like, just so determined to have the outcome that I wanted. And I was just bullheaded about it. And now one of my favorite things that I've learned from Andrew is to ask for this or something better. And so whether you pray or meditate or just kind of like vibe with the universe, like whatever it is, we accept all here. Even if you went to Catholic school like me, we accept all here. Just to ask for this or something better. Because if you're sitting there like, God, it'd be really great to have $100. I need $100. I need to find $100 on the side of the road. I need to find that. That is the outcome that I need. I have to make my rent payment. And like, all the forces of the universe might be like, well, gee, I was going to give you $1,000 on the scratch off ticket. But if you're so determined to have this outcome, fine. Like, here's your $100 or whatever happens. Somebody pays you back that's owed you money for 3 years, and it's like a surprise Venmo. These things happen, right? But when you're open to what you want or something better, you leave room for the surprises. So Andrew and I are in the very early stages of developing an idea for a 5-year U-book. And so something we've talked about for a long time. And we both have a publisher that we love, right? That we are like, God, it'd be so great to be one of their authors. But we're very open to the process. We're like, hey, it'd be great to get this book published with this publisher or one that's better for us. Because we don't want to block anything exciting like that publisher and like that agent and like whoever it is, like could be the key to making the book reach more people. And that's the goal. And so it's really, really hard, but we're trying to be detached from the outcome, whatever happens.
Yeah. And I love that, because I think what we've learned over the last 5 years, and if we could go back to our 5-year, selves and say anything, I think one of the big things would be is trust the universe. Quit resisting where the river is taking you. And we did that with the business for a long time. We're like, well, no, it's got to be this. And, and it all happened at the right time. But I think there was a lot of resistance because we had a certain outcome that it had to be, and it wasn't that. We had it and it shifted and all that stuff. So one of the things to really, really develop when you're detaching from the outcome is that whatever you ascribe to, the universe, God, whatever, no judgments on any of that. The universe has your best intentions at heart. You're the one that blocks it by thinking it has to be a certain way. So when you can start to go, it's always happening in my favor, I just can't see it, appreciate that. Try to lean into that a little bit at a time. And it's a trust fall that you don't have to do all at once. But the more you kind of, give yourself permission to try things, the better it gets. And one of the things I have done to trust the universe and detach from outcomes is using my GPS. I know I've been in the same town for my whole life, so I know how to get everywhere without really blinking. But I've started to put my GPS on, and sometimes I'll be like, I'll just get like this little nudge that's like, turn right. I'm like, that's the wrong direction. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to trust it. And I'll go right. And suddenly I find a new store, or I actually get there faster because there was construction on the way I was supposed to go and the GPS hadn't picked it up. But that is the kind of cool things that happen when you just let the universe do its thing for you. It's really, really hard at first for it. We're not coming to you from a point of view of like, oh, let's just like let everything be what be. We were the exact opposite of this.
Yeah.
And now we're much more like, you know, this person canceled the appointment. Oh, that's great. Let's just see what happens. And something cool does happen because we have that positive expectation on it. Often it revolves around having a nap. But there is always a positive reason for these things. And you just got to give yourself permission to see it. It's not going to kill you to look on the brighter side of life. In fact, it feels a lot better when you do.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that sums it up nicely. Have curiosity. Instead of asking yourself, why is this happening to me? It's why is this happening for me? Coming at things with a little bit of curiosity, like, gee, now I have to wait for the train, even though I was already late. I wonder when that's happening. And just trying to leave some room for interesting things to happen in your life. Like Andrew said, we do not expect this all at once. This is a daily practice that we are working on. But I think that detaching from outcomes has brought us a lot of peace, a lot of self-trust, and just a lot of curiosity about how things unfold. And I do think life is better this way. And hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And as an exercise, dear listener, I want you to go back in your life and think about a time where it wasn't the outcome that you wanted. Maybe you asked out somebody and they said no, or you didn't get accepted into the college that you wanted to. But I want you to look back on whatever it was and see the good that came from the other thing that happened. Like we said, maybe you went to a different college and you met your spouse and, you know, you've had multiple kids and you have an amazing life that never would have happened had you gone to your first choice. Look for the way the universe has been helping you all along. And it may not have been your plan, but it was something way better.
I love that. So now it is time for our glimmers. And if you're new to the show, these are fun, happy, sparkly things that we just like to end each show on a positive note and share something that is making us smile. So, Andrew, what's your glimmer for today?
Well, my glimmer for today is that I get to show up and be here and just be able to experience gratitude for another day on earth. I think sometimes I can wake up and be like, not feel great.
Again.
Still on earth today. All right, here we go.
All righty.
All right. But in all honesty, there is so many things that I can be grateful for. And what my glimmer right now is that continuous shift towards continuously having an attitude of gratitude in everything I do. And like I've said before on these podcasts, it really does light me up to get to talk about these topics, to help people, to coach. I'm living a life that I never thought was possible, and I'm grateful for it on every day. So that's my glimmer. How about you?
I love that. Yeah, I was going to share, the last few years it's been a lot of work, and hustling. And I'm really trying to have hobbies, like these things that other people have that they do just for fun and enjoyment. Because the curse of the entrepreneur is we have a really hard time doing stuff just for fun. Like the instant one of my kids wants to paint their shoes, I'm like, cool, we could sell it. We could do this. And so trying to just do things for the sake of it. And I ordered this huge pack of acrylic paint markers, and I've been just coloring with my daughter in the evenings. We've just been making weird stuff and just, using them up. And I don't know, I got into it because I kept seeing all these Instagram videos of people being creative with it. And it's like, you know what, I'm just going to buy some markers. And it's not easy for me to do that just as a naturally frugal person. I don't often buy myself any extras of anything, just that's my nature. And so, but it has been glimmery and fun. And my daughter's got stuff all over the living room that she's been making. There's some stuff with your name on it, Andrew.
Oh, cool. Love it.
And so that's been glimmery and fun. It's been good.
I'm really grateful for such a colorful experience that you've gotten to have. So that
Yeah,
is
me
great.
too.
All right, listeners, we will see you next time. Make sure to subscribe so you get all the updates.
Bye.
Hey guys, quick disclaimer. We're podcasters on the internet. If you need to seek professional help, please go see your healthcare professional.